Discipline over motivation is the first and most crucial principle. When it comes to developing the A-POS student mentality, too many people wait for the right feeling before they act. They wait for motivation to strike like lightning before they pick up their books or open their notes. But if you look closely, you will notice that the people who rise above average are not the ones who depend on feeling inspired. They are the ones who train themselves to do what must be done, regardless of how they feel. Discipline is doing what you said you would do long after the excitement of making that decision has worn off. It is the bridge between intention and result, between desire and achievement. A student who builds discipline learns to sit down with focus. Even when distractions whisper, even when tiredness tries to persuade them otherwise, even when their friends are doing something more fun, that is where success is shaped in the quiet moments of choice. Motivation is fleeting. One day you feel powerful, ready to conquer everything, and the next day you feel lazy, overwhelmed, or distracted. If you let motivation dictate your behavior, your progress will be inconsistent, and your results will reflect that inconsistency. Discipline, on the other hand, is steady. It becomes the structure of your life. It creates a routine that removes the need to negotiate with yourself. Each day, with discipline, you don't ask, do I feel like studying today? You say, it's time to study, so I will. This shift changes everything, because when you remove the decision-making battle from your mind, your energy goes into action instead of excuses. Discipline simplifies life because it removes the back and forth argument you have with yourself. Think about the great students you've observed. The ones who always seem to be prepared, who perform well on exams, who deliver assignments on time. They are not necessarily the most talented or the most naturally gifted. Often they are simply the most disciplined. They have trained themselves to prioritize study time, to review consistently, to keep their focus sharp. Their strength lies in their ability to stick to their plan, not in bursts of enthusiasm. They don't rely on waiting for a good mood to get started. They build habits that carry them forward automatically. Discipline is a muscle, and the more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. The more you push yourself to study when you don't want to, the easier it becomes to repeat that action again and again. Consider the difference between the student who waits for motivation and the one who practices discipline. The motivated student might study hard the night before a test when the pressure is high. They might pull an all-nighter and hope to retain enough information to get through the exam. But the disciplined student has been preparing all along. They don't need the panic of the last minute because they have been laying the foundation steadily. They are confident, not because of luck or talent, but because of disciplined preparation. When the exam comes, they are ready. When a surprise quiz is given, they can handle it. Their strength is not chance, but habit. Discipline also teaches you respect for time. Time is one of the most valuable resources you have as a student, and it can slip away faster than you realize. The disciplined student guards their time carefully. They set priorities. They create schedules. They honor deadlines. They understand that every wasted hour is an opportunity gone forever. Motivation might get you to work hard once in a while, but discipline ensures that you use your time wisely every day. With discipline, you control your time instead of letting your time control you. And what's even more powerful is that discipline in studies doesn't stay only in studies. It spills into every part of your life. The way you train yourself to focus on academics becomes the way you handle your health, your relationships, your career in the future. Discipline is a life skill, not just a study skill. The student who learns it early builds a foundation for excellence in every area. That's why discipline is worth more than a short burst of motivation. Motivation can inspire you to start, but discipline ensures you continue. And in the long run, continuation is what builds the APOS mentality. Preparation is everything. When it comes to building the A+ student mentality, most students think success comes down to luck, natural talent, or a last-minute burst of effort. But the truth is that preparation creates confidence, and confidence creates results. Every exam, every presentation, every assignment is simply a test of how well you prepared in advance. You cannot perform at your best when you show up unprepared, and you cannot fail if your preparation is consistent, thorough, and disciplined. Preparation is not something you do the night before a deadline. It is something you build day after day in the quiet hours, when no one is watching, when no one is clapping for your effort, when it is just you and your work. The greatest students are the ones who understand that every page reviewed, every problem solved, every note rewritten is another layer of preparation that will pay off when it matters most. Preparation brings peace of mind. A student who is prepared steadily walks into the classroom with calmness, while the one who has relied on last-minute cramming carries anxiety and fear. The prepared student knows that they have done the work, and because of that, they can focus with clarity when tested. The unprepared student hopes for luck, hopes the questions are easy, hopes something will go in their favor. But hope is not a strategy. Preparation removes the need for hope because it equips you with certainty. You cannot control the difficulty of the questions, but you can control the quality of your preparation. And the stronger your preparation, the less the circumstances matter. Think about the way athletes train. They don't wait until the day of the competition to start practicing. They prepare their bodies and their minds long before the event. They run drills, they study their weaknesses, they repeat the fundamentals until they become second nature. That's the same mentality a student must adopt. Preparation is training for the mind. Reading, writing, reviewing, rehearsing, these are the drills of an A+ student. The more you prepare, the sharper you become. And just like athletes, you build resilience through preparation. When challenges come, you don't break under pressure because you have already rehearsed the response countless times. Preparation also requires foresight. An A+ student looks ahead, not just to the next class or the next exam, but to the bigger picture. They understand that preparation is not only about passing tests, but about building knowledge, skills, and habits that will serve them for years to come. When you prepare, you are investing in yourself. You are not just memorizing information for a short-term goal. You are shaping your mind to think sharper, faster, and deeper. Every bit of preparation adds to your long-term growth. That's why preparation should never be seen as a chore, but as an investment in your own future success. There is also a hidden power in preparation. It gives you control. So much in life feels uncertain, but preparation allows you to take charge of your own performance. When you prepare thoroughly, you are no longer at the mercy of chance. You create your own luck because you have taken the time to be ready for any situation. Whether the task is easy or difficult, whether the exam is straightforward or challenging, preparation gives you the ability to face it head on. This control is empowering because it means your destiny is in your own hands, not left to fate. And preparation compounds. The more you prepare consistently, the easier it becomes to handle larger challenges. Each day of steady preparation builds on the last, creating a momentum that cannot be stopped. A student who prepares daily never feels overwhelmed because they've been breaking down the task step by step. In contrast, the student who avoids preparation until the last minute is buried under pressure, unable to cope, unable to think clearly. The lesson is simple. Preparation done daily creates freedom, while neglect creates stress. If you want the A's mentality, You must make preparation your daily practice, not your emergency strategy. Small daily habits are the building blocks of the A+ student mentality because success is rarely the result of one huge effort, but the accumulation of consistent actions done day after day. Many students make the mistake of waiting for the big breakthrough moment, the perfect plan, or the major opportunity. But what truly shapes excellence is the quiet routine of practicing good habits, reading a few pages every day, reviewing notes after each lecture, solving a handful of problems consistently, organizing study materials at the end of each evening. These may seem small and ordinary, but over time they compound into extraordinary results. The beauty of habits is that they don't demand greatness in the moment. They demand consistency. And when consistency is present, greatness eventually follows. Think of habits as seeds. You don't plant one seed today and expect a tree tomorrow. You plant, you water, you nurture, and slowly but surely growth happens. Habits work the same way in study and in life. A student who commits to daily learning is nurturing the seed of knowledge. And though the growth may feel slow at first, one day they look back and realize they have built a strong foundation that others envy. Contrast that with the student who neglects daily habits and tries to sprint. At the end, their growth is weak, shallow, and short-lived. Excellence is not a sprint. It is a marathon built on routine discipline.
There you go.
Daily habits also train the mind to associate learning with normal life. Instead of making study a stressful event that comes only before exams, habits make learning a natural part of every day. When you review your notes daily, you reduce the pressure of having to memorize everything at once. When you read for Arthur's minutes each morning, you turn knowledge into a ritual. When you solve a few practice problems each evening, you build confidence slowly. The power of habits is not in their size, but in their repetition. And once repetition sets in, learning becomes effortless rather than forced. Another benefit of small daily habits is how they shape identity. Each action you repeat is a vote for the kind of person you believe yourself to be. When you choose to review your notes, even for short minutes, you are casting a vote for the identity of an AFOT student. When you organize your study space, you reinforce the identity of someone who values order and clarity. Over time, these repeated actions mold your self-image, and you stop trying to be an excellent student. You simply become one. Habits change you from the inside out, and that transformation is far more powerful than temporary bursts of effort.
Go.
Small habits also reduce one of the biggest struggles students face is procrastination. And procrastination thrives on the belief that tasks are too big or too difficult. But when you break your work into small, manageable habits, the resistance shrinks. Reading one chapter is less intimidating than finishing the whole book. Writing one paragraph is less overwhelming than completing the entire essay. Reviewing flashcards for 10 minutes feels achievable compared to memorizing everything in one night. By focusing on small habits, you eliminate excuses and build momentum because each small win fuels the next action. Right? No? And the most profound truth about small daily habits is that they compound silently. You might not notice the difference after one day or even 1 week, but after months of consistent effort, the gap between the disciplined and the careless student becomes undeniable. The one who practiced daily habits carries knowledge with ease, recalls information quickly, and performs confidently, while the one who neglected them struggles under pressure. Just as money compounds in the bank, habits compound in the mind. What seems insignificant today becomes monumental tomorrow. The student who understands this principle stops chasing dramatic changes and instead commits to the steady rhythm of daily discipline, knowing that the small steps are what led to extraordinary results. Responsibility is the foundation of the A+ student mentality because it shifts the power back into your own hands. Too many students waste time pointing fingers, blaming the teacher for not explaining well, blaming the subject for being too difficult, blaming circumstances for being unfair. But the truth is, as long as you keep blaming, you give away your power to improve. Responsibility says, if it's to be, it's up to me. It doesn't matter how tough the class is or how unclear the instruction might be. The responsible student takes ownership of finding solutions. And now, they seek help, they ask questions, they look for resources, they adjust their approach. Responsibility creates initiative, and initiative creates progress. When you take responsibility, you no longer live in reaction mode. Instead of waiting for someone else to push you, you become self-driven. If the teacher doesn't give enough examples, you find extra ones. If the textbook feels confusing, you research further. If your grades are not where you want them to be, you don't complain, you strategize. Responsibility is about refusing to settle for excuses. It is about realizing that while you cannot control every factor, you can always control your response. The A+ student does not sit around waiting for ideal conditions. They work with what they have and turn it into something valuable. There is power in ownership. Once you accept that your results are the outcome of your choices, everything begins to change. You stop wasting energy on what you cannot control and start maximizing what you can. You begin to see that if you want better results, you must build better habits. If you want stronger understanding, you must invest more time. If you want improvement, you must measure your progress and make adjustments. Responsibility is not a burden. It is freedom. It is the freedom to know that your future is not dictated by someone else's actions, but by your own commitment. Think of two students facing the same situation. Both receive a low grade on a test. The first blames the teacher, the exam, the timing, or even bad luck. The second asks, what could I have done differently? Where did I fall short in preparation? How can I make sure this doesn't happen again? Which of the two do you think will improve faster? The answer is obvious. The one who takes responsibility has opened the door to growth. The one who blames has shut the door and locked themselves out of progress. Responsibility is the difference between stagnation and advancement. Now, responsibility also sharpens character. When you own your results, you develop resilience. You become tougher because you no longer crumble under challenges. Instead of saying, this is too hard, you say, how can I handle this? Instead of saying, I can't do it, you say, what do I need to learn in order to do it? This shift builds mental strength. It teaches you to face challenges with courage instead of avoidance. And once you learn to carry responsibility in your studies, you will naturally carry it in your work, your relationships, and your future goals. It becomes a trait that defines you in every area of life. Another truth about responsibility is that it creates discipline. When you know that no one else is coming to do the work for you, you stop wasting time, waiting. You stop relying on reminders or external pressure. You create your own schedule, your own system, your own drive. Responsibility teaches you to be accountable, not to the teacher, not to your parents, not to anyone else, but to yourself. The most powerful accountability is internal accountability. When you set a standard for yourself and refuse to lower it, responsibility is the fuel that keeps that standard alive, And perhaps the greatest gift of responsibility is clarity. Once you accept full ownership, the path becomes clear. If you want an A+, you know it is not about luck or outside forces. It is about the actions you take daily. Responsibility removes the illusion of helplessness and replaces it with the truth that you are in control of your direction. With that clarity, you no longer drift aimlessly. You move with purpose, knowing that every decision either takes you closer to excellence or pulls you away from it. Effort equals outcome is a principle every A+ student understands deep in their core, because there is no shortcut to excellence and no secret formula that bypasses hard work. The truth is simple. You cannot expect top results with minimal effort. If you put in shallow hours, distracted study sessions, or inconsistent practice, your outcomes will reflect that weakness. On the other hand, if you bring focused effort, steady discipline, and a willingness to go beyond the bare minimum, the rewards will match the level of energy you invested. Life has a fair way of balancing itself. What you plant is what you harvest. And in studies, the seeds you plant are measured in effort. Too many students deceive themselves by wishing for better grades without raising their level of effort. They say they want to be excellent, but their daily actions don't reflect that desire. They spend hours on entertainment and only a fraction on preparation. Then wonder why the results fall short of expectations. The principle never changes. Effort equals outcome. A student who studies deeply, reviews consistently, and gives their best focus will always outperform the one who tries to coast on talent or last-minute cramming. Effort has a way of exposing itself. You cannot hide lack of preparation when it is time to perform, and you cannot deny the confidence that comes when you know you have put in the work. Effort also builds momentum. When you commit yourself fully to your studies, something powerful happens. You begin to gain confidence, and confidence fuels more effort. Each hour of real concentration adds to your strength. Each practice session sharpens your skill. As the effort accumulates, the weight of tasks feels lighter because your competence grows alongside your work. The opposite is also true. When effort is weak, doubt creeps in, fear grows larger, and performance suffers. Students who avoid effort remain trapped in the cycle of stress and disappointment, but those who pour themselves into their preparation create a cycle of growth and self-belief. It is important to recognize that effort is not only about quantity, but also about quality. Spending 5 hours with half-hearted focus is not the same as 2 hours of deep, undistracted concentration. The A+ mentality understands that true effort means bringing energy, intention, and full presence to the task at hand. It means shutting down distractions, setting clear objectives, and giving your best to every session. When your effort is sharp, your results will reflect that sharpness. When your effort is lazy, your results will carry the same weakness. Every exam, every assignment, every project is a mirror showing you the quality of your effort. Effort is also the great equalizer. Not every student starts at the same level of natural ability. Some may grasp concepts faster, while others struggle initially. But effort allows the one who struggles to eventually surpass the one who coasts on talent. History is filled with examples of ordinary people who achieved extraordinary things, not because they were the most gifted, but because they were willing to outwork everyone else. In academics, the same principle applies. Talent can give you a head start, but effort will determine who finishes strongest. The student who refuses to quit, who keeps showing up with steady energy, will eventually rise above the one who gave minimal work, no matter how smart they appeared in the beginning. Another truth about effort is that it compounds over time. One intense night of study cannot compare to weeks of consistent effort. Just as exercise builds strength gradually, effort in academics builds mastery. Step by step, each day of focused work stacks upon the last, and soon the gap between the disciplined and the careless becomes undeniable. While one is struggling to catch up, the other is soaring ahead with ease. This compounding effect is Why effort is more powerful than wishful thinking or occasional bursts of hard work. Consistency and effort transforms average students into excellent ones, And there is something deeply satisfying about knowing you gave your best even before the grade is revealed. You carry a sense of confidence and peace. When you know your effort was complete, you don't fear the outcome because you trust the process. On the other hand, when you know you cut corners, when you know you avoided effort, anxiety follows you everywhere. You worry not because the test is hard, but because you know you did not prepare fully. Effort eliminates that fear. Effort builds the foundation that supports confidence. And confidence is what leads to the kind of results every student desires. Focus in a noisy world is one of the greatest strengths that separates the average student from the A-Popsnit student, because we live in an age where distractions are everywhere. Phones, social media, messages, endless entertainment, notifications. Every moment, something is fighting for your attention, and attention is the currency of learning. What you give your focus to grows, and what you starve of focus fades. Well, the A-loss mentality understands that if you cannot control your focus, you cannot control your results. It is not about how many hours you spend sitting with your books. It is about how much of that time is truly devoted to learning without interruption. Every distraction has a cost. A quick glance at your phone during study time might seem harmless, but each interruption breaks your concentration, and it can take several minutes to return to deep focus. Multiply that by several distractions in a session, and you lose hours of productive time. The disciplined student knows this and protects their focus like a valuable treasure. They set boundaries. They silence notifications. They create an environment designed for concentration. They know that while anyone can sit in front of a textbook, not everyone can immerse themselves fully in the task. It is immersion, not casual attention, that produces mastery. Focus is also about training the mind. Just like a muscle, attention becomes stronger the more you exercise it. At first, it may feel difficult to concentrate for long periods, but with daily practice, your ability to focus grows. The student who trains their focus develops an edge that most others don't have. When the exam comes, they can read a question carefully, think clearly, and recall information with precision. The unfocused student struggles not because they lack knowledge, but because their mind has never been disciplined to remain steady. Focus is not only about what you study, it is about how you train your mind to think without wandering. Another truth about focus is that it magnifies effort. Two students might both spend 3 hours preparing, but the one who gives undivided attention will achieve far more than the one who divides their mind between books and distractions. Focus multiplies the value of your time. It allows you to cover more material, understand concepts deeper, and retain information longer. This is why the A+ mentality does not chase long hours for the sake of appearances. It chases quality hours where the mind is fully engaged. In the end, 1 hour of deep work can be worth more than 3 hours of distracted effort. Requires clarity of purpose. When you know why you are studying, when you have a vision of where your effort is taking you, it becomes easier. Students who lack purpose drift easily because they have no anchor. But the A-Pot student reminds themselves of their goals, their future, and the rewards of excellence. This sense of direction strengthens their ability to stay locked in, even when the world around them is full of noise. Clarity fuels concentration, and concentration fuels results. In a noisy world, focus is also an act of discipline. It means saying no to temptations in the moment to say yes to a greater reward. Later, it means training yourself to delay gratification, to resist the pull of instant entertainment, so you can build something lasting. Every time you choose over distraction, you are sharpening your ability to master your environment instead of letting the environment master you. And in today's world, this skill is rare, which is why it is so valuable. The students who learn to command their focus will always stand out. Because in the battle between noise and excellence, they have chosen the path of mastery. Learning as a lifestyle is what elevates the A+ student mentality beyond simple academics, because it transforms education from something temporary into something permanent. Many students see learning as a task forced on them by school, something they endure until graduation. But the true achievers see learning as a lifelong pursuit. They understand that knowledge is not confined to a classroom or a textbook, but something to be absorbed from every experience, every challenge, every opportunity. When learning becomes a lifestyle, it is no longer about passing exams. It is about preparing yourself for a greater future. Right? An APOT student does not limit their curiosity to assigned chapters or homework. They ask questions outside of class. They explore new ideas. They read beyond the syllabus. They see education as a way to sharpen the mind, expand perspective, and increase their value in the world. When you adopt this mentality, studying stops feeling like a burden and starts feeling like an investment. You begin to understand that every new concept you learn makes you stronger, more capable, and more adaptable. Knowledge is not just for grades, it is for growth. The more you learn, the more options life places before you, because learning equips you with tools to handle challenges and create opportunities. Okay? Learning as a lifestyle also means never becoming complacent. Some students stop learning the moment the exam ends. They shut the book, they forget the lessons, and they move on. But the ABOS mentality reviews, reflects, and continues growing even after the test. They know that what you learn is not meant to be discarded, it is meant to be built upon. A lifestyle of learning creates a habit of review, where you revisit old material, connect it to new knowledge, and strengthen your understanding over time. This constant cycle of learning and reinforcing keeps the mind active and prevents knowledge from slipping away. Another aspect of learning as a lifestyle is humility. It requires recognizing that no matter how much you know, there is always more to learn. The best students are not the ones who boast about their intelligence, but the ones who remain curious and open-minded. They listen carefully, they seek advice, they admit when they don't understand, and they never pretend to have all the answers. This humility fuels growth because it keeps the door open for more knowledge. The arrogant student stops learning because they believe they already know enough. The humble student keeps advancing because they know the journey of learning never ends. When learning becomes a lifestyle, discipline naturally follows. Instead of waiting for deadlines to push you, you create routines of daily reading, regular practice, and constant exploration. Just as someone committed to health exercises regularly, a student committed to growth studies regularly, it becomes part of who you are, not just something you do occasionally. And when something becomes part of who you are, consistency becomes natural. This consistency is what sets the A+ student apart, because while others study only under pressure, they study because it is part of their way of life, And the most powerful truth about making learning a lifestyle is that it prepares you for a world that never stops changing. Technology evolves, industries shift, opportunities move, and only those who continue to learn can stay ahead. The student who learns only for the exam may pass today, but struggle tomorrow. The one who makes learning a way of life will always adapt, always grow, and always find ways to thrive. By embracing learning beyond the classroom, you prepare not just for the next test, but for every stage of your future. Excellence as an attitude is the highest expression of the APROT student mentality, because it is not just about what you do, but about who you become in the process of doing it. Excellence is not limited to grades or achievements. It is a mindset that says, whatever I do, I will do it with my best effort. It is a commitment to raise the standard in every area of life, whether it is studying, communicating, working, or even taking care of small responsibilities. Excellence is not about perfection. It is about consistency in striving to give your best. When excellence becomes your attitude, you stop cutting corners, you stop looking for shortcuts, and you begin to approach everything with seriousness and pride in your work. And a plot student understands that grades are a reflection of habits, but habits are a reflection of attitude. If your attitude is careless, your habits will be careless, and your results will follow the same pattern. But if your attitude is one of excellence, your habits will reflect order, focus, and discipline, and your results will naturally improve. This is why some students seem to excel not just in academics, but in other parts of life as well. Their secret is not extra talent, but an attitude of excellence that shows up everywhere. They write neatly, they speak respectfully, they prepare thoroughly, they follow through on their commitments. Excellence becomes their identity, and results are just the evidence of that identity. Excellence as an attitude also requires pride in small things. Too often, people wait until something big comes along before they decide to give their best. They think, I'll work harder for the final exam or for the big project, while ignoring the small assignments and daily responsibilities. But the truth is that how you handle the small tasks reveals how you will handle the big ones. If you ignore the small duties, you will lack the strength to excel in greater opportunities. Excellence is about treating the little tasks with the same seriousness as the big ones, because they all build character. A student who writes a small homework assignment with care is training themselves to approach bigger projects with the same mindset. Excellence grows in the details. When excellence becomes your attitude, you stop comparing yourself to others and start competing with yourself. It is no longer about being better than someone else, but about being better than you were yesterday. This mindset frees you from jealousy and discouragement, because your focus shifts from external competition to internal growth. You learn to ask yourself, did I improve today? Did I give more effort than yesterday? Did I raise my own standard? This personal commitment creates momentum, because self-improvement is a journey that never ends. Excellence becomes a daily challenge to stretch yourself, and each small improvement adds to your long-term success. Another truth about excellence is that it attracts opportunities. Teachers notice the student who consistently delivers quality work. Leaders notice the person who takes pride, in their responsibilities. Employers notice the individual who goes beyond the minimum. Excellence makes you stand out, because most of the world settles for average. When you commit to excellence, you rise above the crowd, and doors begin to open in unexpected ways. People trust those who carry excellence as their attitude, because it shows reliability, responsibility, and consistency. What starts as a personal standard soon becomes your reputation. And reputation creates opportunities. Right? Excellence also brings fulfillment. There is a deep satisfaction that comes from knowing you gave your best regardless of the outcome. Even before results are announced, you carry a sense of peace, because you know you did not hold back. This peace is not something average effort can provide. When you approach life with excellence, you build self-respect. You no longer doubt yourself or regret wasted potential, because you know you are living to your fullest capacity. This sense of fulfillment strengthens confidence, and confidence fuels even greater achievements. Excellence as an attitude becomes the foundation of a life that is not only successful, but meaningful and inspiring. The A+ student mentality is not about chasing grades. It is about building character, discipline, and vision that will carry you far beyond the classroom. When you embrace discipline over fleeting motivation, when you treat preparation as the greatest investment, when you honor small daily habits, when you take full responsibility, when you match effort with the results you desire, when you protect your focus in a noisy world, when you make learning a lifelong pursuit, and when you carry excellence as your attitude, you shape yourself into someone unstoppable. Grades may fade, certificates may collect dust, but the mentality you build will define your future. So, decide today to live with the Aerosamsh mindset, because the real reward is not what you achieve. It is who you become in the process.